Picture this: a sea so enormous it stretched 2,000 miles long and 600 miles wide, right through the heart of North America. This wasn't just any sea, this was the Western Interior Seaway, a colossal waterway that dominated the continent during the late Cretaceous period. Now, most of us would probably feel a whole lot better being dropped in the middle of nowhere on land than out in the open ocean, and for good reason. It seems like the deeper you go, the more unsettling life gets. Imagine an ocean more alien, and potentially more lethal, than anything we know today. Some folks call it Hell's Aquarium. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. This was, without a doubt, the absolute worst place you could ever decide to go for a swim. An aquatic realm where survival was a near impossibility. Cretaceous Western Interior. Seaway ecosystem. This Cretaceous seaway wasn't just massive, it was teeming with life. Or, to be more accurate, it was an aquatic death trap, swarming with nightmarish predators. Warm, shallow waters, maybe only 3,000 feet at their deepest, but averaging around 150 feet, supported thriving ecosystems. During the Campanian Age, between about 83 and 72 million years ago, this seaway became the ultimate no-go zone of the ancient world. It was a warm, tropical expanse, home to ferocious predators like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, alongside a rogues gallery of menacing shark species. These creatures would make today's marine predators look like goldfish. Seriously, this was arguably one of the deadliest seas in Earth's entire history. For roughly 34 million years, from about 100 to 66 million years ago, this massive waterway literally split North America in two. It carved a path from the Gulf of Mexico all the way to the Arctic Ocean, creating two island continents, Laramidia to the west and Appalachia to the east. If you live in the United States, Mexico, or Canada, there's a decent chance you've walked right over what used to be the bottom of this prehistoric ocean. It's wild to think how dramatically different our geography used to be. So, what terrifying secrets were lurking beneath the waves of this vast inland ocean? An ocean filled with animals far more menacing and lethal than anything roaming the land? Thanks to oxygen-depleted bottom waters, countless fossils from this era have been beautifully preserved. These remains give us a window into a rich, yet horrifyingly dangerous, marine world. The truth, etched in stone, paints a picture of prehistoric drama far more complex and filled with creatures far more monstrous, routinely larger and scarier than any land-based dinosaur. It's an absolute nightmare to fully comprehend. While scientists knew about this vast inland sea, the sheer scale of its biodiversity and the truly nightmarish, lethal forms of its apex predators were details that only came to light through dedicated fossil hunting. We're talking about a lineup that would win deadliest sea of all time in any documentary, easily surpassing the Jurassic waters with their giant Plesiosaurs, or even Cenozoic seas patrolled by Megalodon. Early maps might have just shown a big blue splotch, but they couldn't possibly convey the sheer terror that swam within those waters. Trust me. Plenty of beasts worthy of giving you a serious case of thalassophobia didn't even make the highlight reels. The Western Interior Seaway was a complex and fearsome, downright brutal, food chain. Powerful predators constantly competed for dominance, shaping this marine ecosystem into one of history's most savage, predator-rich environments. It was a true gauntlet of death for any creature unlucky enough to fall into its unforgiving waters. Truly nightmarish sea monsters were everywhere, though some periods were definitely worse than others. Top marine predators of the Cretaceous Western Interior Seaway, leading the charge of aquatic terrors, and probably the absolute worst thing you could bump into, were the mosasaurs. These extinct aquatic reptiles grew to truly massive sizes, with bodies shaped a bit like monitor lizards but built for the sea. Instead of legs, they had 4 paddle-like flippers, and their elongated, streamlined bodies cut through the water with incredible efficiency. Some swam like eels, while later, more advanced species developed large tail flukes, propelling them like sharks with surprising speed. These tremendously powerful swimmers completely dominated the Western Interior Seaway. They were often the biggest, most ferocious predators around, sporting highly specialized teeth, typically large, razor-sharp, and sometimes serrated. It was a lethal combination. Their success was astounding. Over 10 different genera of mosasaurs, ranging from about 5 feet to a staggering 59 feet long, coexisted in these waters at the same time. Among the most common mosasaurs, you had Cledastes. It was the smallest of the main trio, but still no pushover, reaching lengths of up to 20 feet, similar to the largest great white sharks, though much more slender. This made it an extremely agile hunter, using its smooth teeth to snatch fish and invertebrates in the shallower parts of the Seaway. While maybe not a direct threat to something human-sized, it could still deliver a vicious bite and might have even ventured into fresh water, making it even harder to avoid. Then there was Platycarpus, a bit bigger at around 24 feet and weighing about a ton, similar to a giant Nile crocodile. Ironically, despite its size, it probably wasn't a major threat to other large marine animals. Studies of its teeth show they were surprisingly fragile, suggesting it mainly ate smaller fish and soft-bodied squid in deeper waters. But don't relax just yet. The third common mosasaur, Thalassophobia, was a true giant with a nightmarish appetite to match. These beasts grew to be 39 to 52 feet long, about the size of a humpback whale, and unlike Platycarpus, Thalassophobia had teeth that were no joke. A lethal arsenal of large, thick, recurved, and finely serrated fangs, perfectly designed for tearing through large animals with savage efficiency. Thalassophobia likely ambushed its prey, striking at high speeds. It also had a secret, brutal weapon, its snout. The front of its long snout was pure, reinforced bone, essentially a built-in battering ram. Evidence suggests Thalassophobia was a hyper-aggressive animal and used this ram liberally, attacking nearly everything, including its own kind. In one fatal encounter, a Thalassophobia even rammed and smashed the skull of the even larger Mosasaurus. Speaking of Mosasaurus, it still held the title of the largest mosasaur and therefore the top predator in these hostile waters, occasionally reaching an immense 56 feet long and weighing over 10 tons. While it didn't have a battering ram, Mosasaurus arguably had an even deadlier bite. Its relatively large skull housed a row of giant, lethal teeth designed for slicing and dicing. Each tooth had two cutting edges and surface prisms that helped it bite deeper and grip tighter. Its bite force was tremendous, estimated at 13,000 to 16,000 pounds per square inch, 4 times stronger than a saltwater crocodile's. Like Thalassophobia, Mosasaurus was an ambush predator, but instead of relying on smell, these giants had powerful binocular vision, giving them a clear view even in murky water. And let's not forget Prognathodon, only about 25% smaller than Mosasaurus, but with an equally ferocious bite and excellent vision, adding another giant terror to the Mosasaur lineup. The arrival of these mosasaurs completely reshaped the entire ecosystem. But remarkably, even with these colossal marine lizards, the deadliest jaws in the Seaway might have belonged to a different kind of monster, Deinosuchus, the terror crocodile. This prehistoric waterway wasn't just home to the largest mosasaurs, it also hosted one of the largest, most nightmarish crocodilians ever. Deinosuchus lurked in bays, estuaries, and along the coast, sometimes venturing into deeper waters. They lived on both sides of the Seaway, with those in the west growing larger, up to 39 feet long and weighing a massive 5 tons. Their defenses were formidable, almost impregnable, covered in bony plates called osteoderms so large and heavy they were initially mistaken for ankylosaur armor, but its monstrous bite was its true signature. Deinosuchus had a massive, broad, alligator-like skull with incredibly powerful jaw muscles, delivering a bite potentially stronger than a T-Rex's, over 100,000 newtons, 5 times the force needed to crush a car. Its robust teeth, sharper at the front and blunter at the back, were designed to crush its victims to death with fatal efficiency. It was an opportunistic feeder, with a known preference for marine turtles, large fish, and any dinosaurs unlucky enough to get too close to the water's edge. And of course, there were sharks, ancient terrors with an insatiable thirst for blood. The Cretaceous sharks here definitely had a touch of gigantism. The biggest of them all was Tychodus, a mackerel shark the size of a whale shark. Thankfully, it was relatively harmless to most, with a diet of shelled creatures, which it crushed with over 500 flat, plate-like teeth, some longer than a ruler. But not all sharks were so docile. The Cretaceous mantelli, or Ginsu shark, was a different beast entirely. This mackerel shark looked a lot like a modern great white and had a similar lifestyle. growing up to 26 feet long and weighing over 5 tons. It had large, triangular, truly razor-sharp teeth, bigger than a great white's and coated with thicker enamel to withstand high-impact collisions. It was hyper-aggressive and vicious, taking a shot at almost any prey of the right size. It was particularly good at killing other large marine predators like other sharks, mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, and large fish. Their remains have all been found in Ginsu shark stomachs. Despite its bulk, it was ridiculously fast, possessing lethal speed thanks to drag-reducing scales and a specialized tail fin, allowing it to hit speeds of over 43 miles per hour. Its powerful jaws would then deal catastrophic, often fatal, damage. Then there was the Squalicorax, or crow shark. It was a smaller mackerel shark, usually between 6 and 16 feet long, similar in size to a tiger shark, and its teeth were remarkably similar too, numerous, relatively small, curved, and serrated. Perfect for cutting and sawing through tough flesh, a lethal design. It ate many of the same things as the Ginsu shark but targeted smaller individuals and tended to stick closer to shore, scavenging more often, including dinosaurs that washed out to sea. It also developed a unique skill, hunting the rulers of the sky, the menacing pterosaurs like Pteranodon, suggesting it had excellent eyesight. The bony fish weren't exactly innocent bystanders either. The Cephalopod, or X-fish, was one of the meanest, ugliest fish you could imagine, a truly terrifying sight with its broad, pushed-back, slanted face. Its fearsome reputation came from its incredibly flexible jaw, which allowed it to swallow almost anything small enough to fit. And considering adults could grow to be 16 to 20 feet long, small enough covered a lot of ground. One famous fossil, the fish within a fish, shows a 2-foot-long fish swallowed whole by a medium-sized Cephalopod. There are over a dozen similar finds. As if that wasn't enough, its narrowed, sharp teeth also allowed it to scavenge large animals or cut up living ones with lethal efficiency. Other notable predatory fish included Encodus, the saber-toothed herring, and species like Pachyrhizodus and Ichthyodectes, Cephalopod and Plesiosaur predators. Even the cephalopods, relatives of squid and octopus, were nightmares in this sea. The coasts and shallow reefs were bad enough, but the open waters hosted some truly peculiar and bizarre forms. Cretaceous cephalopods here were among the biggest of their kind, rivaling even today's giant and colossal squid. Tusoteuthis and Ancoteuthis were two such monsters. They looked like thick, relatively short squid but were actually more closely related to octopuses, a truly bizarre combination. As youngsters, they were vulnerable fish food, but they grew rapidly, with some reaching 10 feet long. At that size, they became active, menacing predators, turning the tables on fish, invertebrates, and even baby mosasaurs and plesiosaurs. They used their 10 sucker-lined tentacles to ensnare prey, dragging it towards their powerful beaks. Many scientists think they could also squirt ink and used jet propulsion to move quickly, though their bodies were mostly soft tissue, lacking armor. Then there was Parapuzosia, an ammonite. This cephalopod had a spiral shell made of calcium carbonate, offering protection. It was a true sea monster, the largest known ammonite and the heaviest cephalopod of all time, dwarfing even giant and colossal squid. Its shell alone could be up to 11 feet in diameter, meaning the whole animal probably weighed over 1.5 tons, with nearly half of that being shell. If you could somehow uncurl its body, it might have stretched 60 feet long. It was the heaviest invertebrate ever. These behemoths were found throughout the Seaway in the upper 800 feet of water, so they weren't exactly hard to find. What they ate is a bit of a mystery. They could have hunted fish, other cephalopods, or even marine reptiles. Or, if they were sluggish, they might have stuck to vegetation and plankton, meaning an encounter might be more of a startling jump scare than a predatory attack. And we can't forget the Plesiosaurs, another iconic group. Like mosasaurs, they had 4 flippers, but their bodies were broad and flat with short, weak tails and, in some cases, comically long necks. A strange, yet strangely beautiful silhouette. They flew through the water by flapping their flippers, mostly sticking to shallower areas. Several kinds lived in the Seaway, some growing over 15 feet long. The longest, like Elasmosaurus and Albertonectes, reached about 38 feet. their daunting lengths making them quite conspicuous. In fact, Elasmosaurus had more vertebrae in its neck than any other known animal. Despite their imposing appearance, they weren't eating huge prey. Their narrow mouths and necks were specialized for catching small animals like fish, which they likely tricked by approaching with just their heads visible, their large bodies hidden, then ambushing them. Their angled teeth formed a natural fish trap. They also hunted snails, clams, and other small creatures. Their incredible diversity shows just how skilled and successful they were. Birds, Pterosaurs, and fossils of the Seaway. Even the skies and shorelines of the western interior Seaway were bustling with life. Specialized birds and pterosaurs adapted uniquely to these marine environments, always watchful for an opportunity to feed, or to become food themselves for the aquatic titans below, like that Squalocorax shark known to hunt pteranodon. The flightless, toothed bird. Hesperornis, a cormorant-like diver, grew up to 6 feet long. It had almost no wings and propelled itself with powerful hind legs, much like modern loons. Its teeth, arranged in a groove rather than individual sockets, were a striking feature. Then there was Ichthyornis, a flying bird about the size of a pigeon, but with teeth, a groundbreaking discovery that fascinated Charles Darwin. It likely lived much like modern terns or gulls. Soaring above them were pterosaurs like the ubiquitous pteranodon, with wingspans over 20 feet. Thousands of their fossils, often containing fish remains, have been found. They likely took off directly from the water after snatching prey. The scarcer Nyctosaurus, with its unique wing structure and sometimes massive crest, also shared these southern skies, expertly fishing with its sharp, toothless beak. The rich fossil record preserved in ancient sediments, particularly in formations like the Niobrara Chalk and Pierre Shale found across the American Midwest, gives us an incredible window into this seaway's biodiversity. Index fossils like giant clam-like inoceramids and distinctive coiled-shelled ammonites help scientists date these rock layers. Famous fossil sites like Monument Rocks and Castle Rock in Kansas continue to yield spectacular remains: mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, pterosaurs, and that famous fish within a fish, Xiphactinus, painting a vivid picture of this vanished, predator-crammed ecosystem. Formation and impact of the western interior. Seaway. So, how did this monstrous paradise come to be? Complex tectonic processes reshaped North America during the Cretaceous. Ancient oceanic plates like the Farallon and Kula slid beneath the continent's western edge. This subduction warped the crust, creating a vast depression called a back arc basin, or foreland basin. Around 115 million years ago, waters from the Arctic Ocean began to flood this basin from the north. By about 100 million years ago, it connected with waters from the Gulf of Mexico, forming a massive maritime highway. Global sea levels were also incredibly high then, about 800 feet higher than today, largely due to intense volcanic activity along mid-ocean ridges. This was part of a major geological event called the Zuni sequence. The shallow, warm, tropical waters of this seaway, often stratified with warmer, saltier water at the bottom and cooler, less salty water above, created the perfect conditions for marine life to thrive. The seaway even experienced periods of anoxia, where oxygen levels plummeted, which, while deadly for some, ironically helped preserve the fossils we study today. The water circulation itself was like a giant estuary, with fresh water flowing out and pulling in saltier waters from both the Arctic and Gulf regions, creating a massive counterclockwise swirl. This continental split into Laramidia and Appalachia also had a profound impact on land-based ecosystems, isolating plant and animal populations and allowing them to evolve independently. Dinosaur groups like hadrosaurs and ceratopsids flourished uniquely on Laramidia. Retreat and extinction of the western interior. Seaway. But all things must end. The western interior seaway began its long retreat during the late Cretaceous. The same tectonic forces that created it started to push up the land. The Laramide orogeny, a major mountain-building event that formed the Rocky Mountains, began around 85 million years ago. As mountains rose and sea levels fluctuated, the seaway experienced multiple cycles of advancing and retreating. Its final phase, known as the Pierre Seaway, saw it steadily pull back, starting from the south. By about 66 million years ago, Right around the time the asteroid hit and wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs, Hell's Aquarium had almost vanished. The question remains, where did all these crazy, nightmarish animals go? Some likely declined slowly or evolved into other forms as the Seaway shrank. But the asteroid impact was the real game changer. It slammed into the Earth relatively close by, sending a giant tsunami and other unpleasantries surging through these waters. Fish fossils from this time have even been found with iridium, a hallmark of the asteroid, in their gills. This devastation wiped out many of the most iconic sea monsters and finally brought an end to Hell's Aquarium. Today, the flat, exposed terrain that was once the floor of this immense, terrifying sea forms the foundation of North America's interior plains. The legacy of this alien ocean is written in the very rocks beneath our feet, a humbling reminder of Earth's dynamic nature and the fleeting reigns of even its most fearsome creatures. We walk on the ghosts of a lost world. What other lost worlds, equally strange and formidable, lie buried in the deep past, waiting to reshape our understanding of life's incredible and often brutal journey on this planet? Don't be mistaken. Though, the oceans have been home to plenty of nightmarish creatures long after the western interior seaway was gone. So, our expedition through Hell's Aquarium, the western interior seaway, is now complete. We've faced down some of the most fearsome creatures ever to swim our planet's waters, and hopefully, emerged with a new appreciation for the sheer savagery of prehistoric life. But the conversation doesn't have to end here. What was the absolute standout monster for you from this deadly sea? I'm all ears. Leave your ideas and reactions in the comments section. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that dive. Looking forward to seeing you for our next exploration.